In 2016, the United States saw its first female presidential nominee of a major party. An historic moment, but the race was marked by sexism and offensive derogatory remarks about Hillary Clinton. And it laid bare the truth that it is not enough to just have women in positions of power, like the nominee of a major party or a cabinet position or an elected member of Congress. Women need to be respected, and we need to value that. We need to be a culture that respects women. We saw another example this week when Congressman Ted Yoho leveled derogatory, obscene insults at his colleague, Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. That wasn't a departure for Congressman Yoho. He's an obnoxious, disrespectful man and a member of a party that actually has its fair share of obnoxious, disrespectful men. Their president behaves that way nearly every day in public and on Twitter. There needs to be a greater sense of responsibility for that behavior. The rest of the thinking world has come around and has had a reckoning about respecting women, especially in the workplace. Republican men in Congress need to do that, too, and the people who elect them must take responsibility. They've got to stop electing people who behave like this. If you think Ted Yoho is a good representation of you, then that's on you. He just got caught behaving the way he and many members of his parties regularly behave. And that's where we are. And that's where the party of values, the Republican Party, is today. And that's why Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez had to get up on the House floor today and say this.
In front of reporters, Representative Yoho called me, and I quote, a bitch. These are the words that Representative Yoho levied against a congresswoman. The congresswoman that not only represents New York's 14th congressional district, but every congresswoman and every woman in this country, because all of us have had to deal with this in some form, some way, some shape, at some point in our lives. What I want to express to Mr. Yoho is gratitude. I want to thank him for showing the world that you can be a powerful man and accost women. You can have daughters and accost women without remorse. You can be married and accost women. You can take photos and project an image to the world of being a family man and accost women without remorse and with a sense of impunity. It happens every day in this country. It happened here on the steps of our nation's capital. It happens when individuals who hold the highest office in this land admit to hurting women and using this language against all of us.
Against all of us. For more on that historic speech, not the least of which was because two curse words were read into the record at the United States Congress. I'm joined by Connie Schultz, a Pulitzer Prize-winning economist and author of the novel The Daughters of Erie Town, about the lives and challenges of working women in the Midwest. Connie, good to see you. Thank you for being with us. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez said something at the end of that clip she ran. She said, it's against all of us. And that is the thing we've learned. We learned it through Me Too, we think. We're learning it through Black Lives Matter and these protests, is that if it happens to any of us, it happens to all of us. And I think that's a piece of responsibility we all need to take. And not just Ted Yoho and Roger Williams, but the people who send them to Congress and the people who allow them to be in Congress and their political party as well.
Well, there's a lot there. What I love, first of all, I love when I'm interviewed by a man who understands that and advocates for women. So thank you for that tonight. Because every time something like this happens, the day gets heavier. What I also love is what happened with Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez, because she didn't make it about her. She could have. She would have been justified in doing it. But instead, she's going to carry as she climbs. And so she took this on as an issue that so many women are facing daily and talked about how it's even worse in this moment because it came from a member of Congress. And I love that she stood on the House floor and she used his language. I mean, I was talking to a friend who's around my age. We would never have seen this sort of thing when this was happening to us. We were in a different environment. I'm a boomer, right? And we were supposed to ignore it. We were supposed to ride with it. We were supposed to be able to laugh it off. None of it was funny to us. And every time we were encouraged not to say anything, we could feel the weight of progress not rolling in our direction. She represents this new generation this is why I get so optimistic. And, you know, the point of it here is They would have liked her, Yoho and his crew would have liked her to just let it drop. And instead she said, you know what? Permission denied. Permission denied. If you're going to do this with us, we're going to talk about it so all America can have a conversation.
Connie Schultz, what responsibility do the rest of us bear for this stuff? It is easy. And look, I've talked about Ted Yoho a lot in my career, and I've talked about Steve King a lot in my career. They do this stuff. This is where they are. This is how they live. This is how they think. What's the responsibility that the rest of us bear, that the highest offices in this land, the people who represent us in those halls of Congress, are not this, do not say these things, that they learn? There's no HR department to teach guys like Yoho that they're not supposed to do that.
Well, one would like to think that they've got family members and staff members who are educating them. I can't speak for Mr. Yoho on that. I will say this, of course, we want people to vote better. Right? In so many different directions. We've got a president of the United States who talks like this and much worse. And he's, running for re-election. If we want to bring it down a bit, I really think this in my years as a columnist, especially, most people are good people. Most people want to make a difference, but they don't feel empowered to do it. They don't believe they can. So let's talk about what you can do individually. One of the things we're doing tonight is we're having this conversation. What I hope is that anybody who's watching or anybody who watched any part of her address is having the conversations as well with their family members, with their kids and grandkids, with their colleagues, with their friends. This is how change happens. It's very organic, right? We can talk a lot about who we should be electing and how we should be casting our votes. But if we want people to feel empowered immediately in this moment, it's about having the uncomfortable conversations, much as we're encouraging people right now who are uncomfortable talking about racism. This is the time. Yep. This is the time for these conversations. And let's talk tonight about what happened with her. Because what happened to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, I want to say her whole name because we tend to, not you, but we tend to say AOC. And what happened to her tonight happens to women across America every single day. And again, she said permission denied.